So while I was contemplating the lesson and gospel for today, um, an interesting series of events happened that, uh, gosh, uh, that basically an interesting and slightly odd series of events happened that made me understand the wisdom in a more fuller context. And interestingly enough, it was listening to a song that was basically talking about a process that is essentially the opposite of gnosis, uh, that I realized that imagination and creativity is intricate, intricate, intimately and very fully uh, like wisdom and intelligence and creativity are all very foundational in this universe and to each other. And because I realized a lot of the foundations of this world involve creativity and wisdom both. Um, Creativity is almost like a tool for which wisdom is grows and expands. Because like if you think about all of the uh, the innovators through our history, whether it be in science or architecture or anything you could think of, basically there were people who, you know, thought outside the box, whether they realized that it was the sun, not the earth, that was the center of things. Whether it was, an artist like Picasso who, painted his own way and, changed art as we know it. There is an element of being able to think differently that involves creativity on a very fundamental basis. And in realizing that, I realized something about, basically, I realized that, so in Greek mythology, Athena is the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of weaving. And I've always thought that was weird, because of all the things to put together, that was one of those that didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I've had people over the years tell me different things, none of which I really bought, which is why I can't think of what any of those explanations are, because I didn't really believe them. But I realized that it has to do with the fact that wisdom expresses itself through creativity, and something like weaving can definitely be very creative. And it's also, weaving is a form of making cloth, and one of the bases of civilization, when you get down to early civilization, the ability to make your own clothing without having to kill another animal is kind of one of the bases of one of the foundations of civilization. And so, and when you extrapolate from that, you realize other things, politics, really everything. I could list off so many things. It all it all comes down to wisdom and creativity. And the thing is that the forces of ignorance can use creativity to an extent, but not really. Because like in the Apocrypha of John, it talks about how the demiurge blew the spirit of Sophia into Adam because they created a being, but the being had no life in it. It was the spirit of Sophia that gave it life. And because he is a force of ignorance, he didn't understand that it wasn't his act, but it was wisdom who created a new thing. And like, if you look at the forces of ignorance in the world of today, you know, like those who are trying to take over the aspects of the Republican Party so that they can gain power and, you know, use ignorance for their own ends to get reelected or change democracy into something close to an authoritarianism by, you know, voter suppression, all of those things. It takes a twisted kind of creativity to come up with new ways to oppress people. So creativity is one of those tools that can be used by the forces of ignorance, but it can only be used so far before everything breaks down. Because like, if the ex-president had his way, he would have just been declared the president and democracy as we knew it would have been completely dead. And, you know, knowing what would have come out of that is a guessing game, especially for folks like me who don't actually know much about the history of political science. That's not something I studied. But going out, taking advantage of ignorance in a twistedly creative way only gets you so far before everything literally collapses or figuratively collapses. And that includes deceiving yourself, something I am kind of a master at. It's not something I like being a master at, but it's one of those things I'm coming to terms with about myself. And, you know, with any problem or any situation in my life, I can only creatively avoid things for so long. You know, there's only so long before, you know, like if I'm avoiding cleaning, there's only so long I can avoid that before it gets to the point that something has to be done. Or, you know, if I'm putting off laundry, say, for instance, like there's a finite amount of time where that will work. And I use the quotes on purpose because being aware of and dealing with the things that I am creatively avoiding usually goes better than dealing with it after I've been creatively avoiding it for a while. And on the flip side of that, if you allow wisdom into your mind and thoughts and act on that, not only can I, you know, do things like stop creatively avoiding things that I'm doing, like my laundry. Well, it's like in the lesson, it talks about how those who drink of me will thirst more, and those who eat of me will be further hungry. And it's because when you really let wisdom into yourself and you start to learn things, you want to know more things. It's like this cycle of excitement, and you know, when you put these things together, then you want to do more things to put those things together, and then it's a way of bringing the psychological mind to life, because the forces of ignorance in my own life have caused me all kinds of problems and depression. And so you can take the lesson literally very easily, but you can also take it metaphorically in the stage of consciousness. Because in my life, ignorance has brought me sadness and depression, and wisdom has brought me happiness and peace. And so with that, may you all have a good weekend, and may the lady walk with you.
I'm trying to do it for you this time.
Okay. Still a square on the right.